This video we're going to look at forms and creating forms, especially when it comes to registration forms. In the admin area, on the left-hand side, here's the forms. By clicking on the forms button, it gives me to my list of all the forms that are saved in the database. You'll see some have a little active and many are inactive. Those are just kind of saved in the back end, but that means they're not active. They're not actually public, so you can't view them or submit things on them from the website. You can kind of keep some of these in as reference and take a look at them. I just created a test form, real general settings. However, because of with registration costs, there's still a lot of people that don't feel comfortable paying online and want to send a check in. So we can use what's called conditional logic, which is in this program, which makes it a little bit more complicated, but much easier on the user end, because it allows us to set up and say, if they select, I want to pay the registration fee online, then when hitting the submit button, it'll send them to the online payment gateway. Or if they select the I will pay my registration by mail or send in a check or whatever, however the wording is, it would just submit the form without redirecting them to Dawala, which we have been using for events recently. The main setup is pretty simple, because everything can be drag and drop. So these little kind of buckets over on the right hand side are where we click and put it. Let's put it down here at the bottom, and then you just drag it up to wherever you want. And then by clicking on the arrow, when you hover over these, it'll give you the option to, the little cursor to move them around, and that's just changing the order. The little arrow on the right-hand side gives you kind of more information. So if we want to make the email required, just a matter of checking required, and it'll show with that little asterisk right there. There's a couple more things in the advanced, like if you want it to be a larger form element, that basically how long the entry is, etc. And many of these things you don't need unless we're doing something complex with conditional logic, for example. So just the main setup of the form, I've got, basically a name field. I've got an email field. This is a product field, which is under here under the pricing fields, because this allows me to put in different price points. So for this example, I just have a drop-down menu of if they're registering for themselves or a small group or a large group, because let's say there's different price points for each. So this allows me to select or add as many options as I want, and then put in whatever the label is, as that's what the user is going to see, and then whatever the price value for that is. So whatever the price point, 10 people and more greater is $200, etc. You can add those things. Then people will be able to select their drop down with whatever, if they're just registering themselves. I have this as required. Because this, for me, this is going to be showing on this total here. This total, again, this is over here on the right in the pricing fields. This will automatically populate whatever the total is. So if you have maybe, let's say if I have a registration fee and then let's add another product here. I'll click on that. It adds it down the bottom. I'm going to drag it up. I'll drag it up here towards this by the product name here. I'm going to click on this right now, which just is the default product. I'm just going to say, let's just say there's an additional lunch on Friday. And I can have radio buttons, for example. So I can say yes or no. I can delete any additional ones. And yes, let's say the lunch on Friday is $10 and no lunch on Friday is $0. So now, again, I can click on that as being required. And now this total field down at the bottom is going to automatically calculate. If I click yes, it'll add that. So now I do have this here, this registration fee. Like I said, these are the radio buttons so that people can only select one. You can do the same thing as like a drop down, but I like for registration fee that they can see both of the options, but they can only click on one. Then underneath here, I have two what's called HTML fields. These are the standard fields here over on the right, HTML. This is just a description text, but I have two different ones. One is pay online with information so that the user knows what's going to happen next, as once you push the register button, you will be directed to Dawala to complete your payment. Putting something like we use Dawala, you can use for bank transfer, etc. You can put any information in there. You can add as much information as you would like or as little text as you need. I think it's a really good practice to be able to say, especially with such a wide demographic of users of varying technical levels, to be able to explain, okay, once you hit this, then do this, or this is going to happen next. And the reason why I have two of these is so now this first one, or this second one here, this pay by mail, now here's where the advanced tab actually comes into play. Because I am on these two fields, I have both checked on this enable conditional logic. And I have show this field, HTML field number 9 here, if all of the following match. The registration fee is, I will pay my fee by mail. That means once they select that, this will show up. And if I click over here to this pay online HTML content, I have exactly the opposite. I have the conditional logic still checked, show if this field, if all of the following match, if the registration fee is, I would like to pay the registration fee online. One note that this, if I change the values on here, let's say on, and now, if I hear, it's going to give me an alert. I hit OK. Yep, it says conditional logic is already linked to that. So now if I actually go to this pay by mail and I go under the advanced here, you'll see there's a third option. This one is not going to work. But if I check now, I have to change it to the new value, whatever is linked up here. All right. And then I can hit update the form. And that's going to make these changes public. Now, if I haven't added this form to a page, a post, or an event, it's not actually showing up anywhere, but it is public if people wanted to submit entries to it. So now I'll, just to kind of test and see how things look, I created a page here, fake, registration page. And I'm going to go and edit this page, and I'm going to add this form. My buttons up along the top where add media and shortcode is my add form. I'm going to select my forms. It's going to show only the active ones. I'm going to take my test form here and I insert the form. And I hit update. So now let's go and view this page. So I'm going to go and view this page now. And here's our test form. So we have our name, email. Again, we have our required registrations here. See here we're seeing our total. I just am registering myself, or I'm registering a small group. I would like the additional lunch. It's going to add that $10, or I hit no. I would like to pay my registration fee online. There is that information. And then this bottom one here, then I select. So, okay, the conditional logic is all working. The math is working for the registration costs. Wonderful. The next step, so that's under the form editor under these forms here. So now let's go under the form settings, the second tab. Here's where we can actually change our title of the form and add a form description and all of this. We can change the button text. That's that button at the bottom. So when it comes to registration forms, sometimes it might be confusing. We can just make this as register instead. And that will do that. So I hit update form settings. Okay. However, with the confirmations now, with the ability to pay online, we can create we're going to create two different kind of confirmations. We still have the default confirmation, which once you create a form generically, it'll give us a default confirmation. It'll be something like, thank you for contacting us. We'll get back to you shortly. We'll want to change that because this is a registration form. So we can say, thank you for registering, etc. And then what I did is I created two new confirmations. One is, and then I labeled them pay online and pay by mail. I'll click into one of these and I'll show you so when I created the Dwala form, I'm going to grab that URL, and this is going to be a redirect. There's a Dwala form, or for the registration costs video for that specifically. But you're basically going to grab that redirect URL, which is that the main URL viewing that form, and we're going to redirect to that. And here we go again with the conditional logic. We want to only redirect people after hitting that register button if they select, I want to pay my registration fee online. So again, this is the conditional logic portion. Again, the same thing goes for other confirmation. I'll go back over here and view my pay by mail confirmation. Again, just like so here I have the confirmation type is some text that gives the information on here's the address to send your check or money order to. And again, conditional logic, registration fee is I will pay my fee. And again, this is where I change that value. Instead of by mail, I said by check. I want to make sure that this is another place where if I change that conditional value option, I need to change all of the other conditional logic things that are linked to it, including the confirmations and any entries or fields that appear or disappear depending on whatever that condition. So I hit my save confirmation. And one last area that'll be very useful is under notifications. Especially when it came to things like Synod Assembly, where there was lots of information or a long and complicated registration form. People wanted an email confirmation that their registration was actually received and everything was correct. So I can add a new notification. These are notifications that it'll send by email. So I can say email to user, and this one, if I was just sending an email to myself, an admin, to say that I had gotten another registration, I could just enter the email. But with this case, I'll need to use a select field, and I will select the email, because then whatever they put in for their email address in the registration form, that's where the confirmation will be sent to. From name, GMS, because that's what it's going to appear from. And you say registration confirmation, okay? From email, you can use communications at milwaukeesynod.org, or your personal email, or admin email, whatever. That's just who it's going to be coming from or appear to. You'd want something in there so it doesn't seem like spam. Reply to, you can have that reply to yourself. If you want a blind carbon copy yourself, you can do that. Add your email address in there. Subject, you can say, confirmation. And now in the message, you can add any regular text in here that'll just send that text. Or if this little arrow box merge tags over here on the right-hand side, click on here, and it'll give you the option to select each individual thing, or I can just hit all submitted fields, and then what it's going to return is all of the fields that they put in that registration form are just going to output in this email and sent to them. So I'd put a little intro paragraph and say, thank you, we've received your registration. Here's your registration as follows. Contact us if you have any additional or corrections, etc. And I can hit save notification. If I wanted to have a checkbox to allow people to say, I want to email us have a confirmation, or no, I don't, I could again do the kind of a radio button where people can select either, and then enable the conditional logic and only send this if that they have selected to send that notification. And that's it. Then I can see in my notifications, again, I can, just like in the forms, I can turn on and off things to be active. Again, a mid notification. This is just sending an email to the administrator of the website with all the information of the registration forms.